7 o'clock on Monday, April 17th, 2023, and our City Council meeting is called to order, and I'm going to ask Pastor Smith, if you're in the audience here, come on up, sir. And he's going to give us the invocation, and that'll be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, so if you just stand, please.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, Lord, I thank you for this City Council. I thank you for their service to our city, to all of us who live here. And Lord, I thank you for how they give and they sacrifice of their time. Lord, I pray that tonight you would give wisdom to them, that as decisions are made, as presentations are given, Lord, as they recognize different individuals, even who have given years of their lives to serve our city. Lord, I pray that you would be with this meeting. Be with all of the hearings that will be heard tonight, be with any public comments that are given. Lord, we ask that every word and deed will be to your honor and glory. And Lord, I pray for the thriving and for the sustainability and for the future of Goldsboro, that Lord, you would bless and place your hand on this city in a great way, that it would shine as a city on a hill, it would be a light, and that, Lord, we would care for one another. Lord, we pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Pastor Smith. Join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Take seats. At this time, I'll have the roll call.
Mayor Ham.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Polak.
Present.
Councilwoman Jones.
Present.
Councilman Broadway.
Present.
Councilwoman Matthews.
Present.
Councilman Gaylor.
Present.
Councilman Batts.
Here.
Okay, we have everyone here, and there's one thing we want to change that's not on the this part of the agenda, which is to amend the agenda to remove an item R from the consent agenda. Council, we discussed that in the work session. If you would, could I have a motion to remove item R?
Motion to remove item R from the agenda.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any comments? All in favor of removing the item from the agenda, signify by raising your hand. Okay, good. Okay, before I go any further, I want to mention that if there's anyone wishing to speak in the public comment period, we have a sign-in sheet up here. Please come forward and sign in. You'll only be allowed to speak if you've signed in. Now, you can. This sign-in period continues on, not just now, but it continues on through the public comment period. But you do have to be signed in to speak. Having said that, we'll move to the next item is the approval of minutes. The minutes of the work session and regular meeting of April 3, 2023. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? There being no discussion, all in favor of the minutes being approved, signify by raising your hand. Okay. Any, did you raise your hand? Okay. Anyone not voting to approve, signify by raising your hand. Okay. We have a majority. Minutes are approved. Next item are some presentations we want to present. We have a resolution expressing appreciation for the services rendered by William Cobb as an employee of the City of Goldsboro for more than 33 years. Is Mr. Cobb present? Okay, I'm going to read it. He's not here. So this is the resolution expressing appreciation for services rendered by William Cobb as an employee of the City of Goldsboro for more than 33 years. Whereas William Cobb retires on May 1st, 2023 as an equipment operator with more than 33 years of service with the Goldsboro Public Works Department. And whereas William began his career on May 3, 1989 as a temporary laborer with the Recreation and Parks Department. And whereas on August 4th, 1989, William was transferred to Permanent Labor 2 with the Public Works Department. And whereas on November 21, 1990, William was promoted to Equipment Operator 1 with the Public Works Department. And whereas on July 20, 1998, William was promoted to Equipment Operator 2 with the Public Works Department. And whereas on January 1st, 2016, William was promoted to Motor Equipment Operator with the Public Works Department. And whereas on July 1, 2016, William was transferred to Equipment Operator with the Public Works Department, where he has served until his retirement. And whereas William has proven himself to be a dedicated and efficient public servant who has gained the admiration and respect of his fellow workers, and the citizens of the city of Goldsboro. And whereas the mayor and city council of the city of Goldsboro are desirous on behalf of themselves, city employees, and the citizens of the city of Goldsboro of expressing to William Cobb their appreciation and gratitude for the service rendered by him to the city over the years. Now therefore be it resolved by the mayor and city council of the city of Goldsboro, North Carolina, that we express to William Cobb our very best wishes for success, happiness, and prosperity, and good health in his future endeavors. This resolution shall be incorporated into the official minutes of the city of Goldsboro and shall be in full force and effect from and after this 17th day of April 2023. Is there a motion to adopt this?
Second.
All in favor, signify by raising your hand. Okay. At this time, we have a proclamation, and I'm going to ask Councilwoman Brandy Matthews to read this. And Ms. Matthews, I believe I put note that we have a visitor, not a visitor, but someone here to accept it.
Okay, thank you. National Volunteer Appreciation Week Proclamation. Whereas a sense of caring and a desire to share have motivated many men and women to volunteer their time and services to the needs of others in the Goldsboro community. And whereas volunteers help the sick, the needy, the disabled, and enrich our lives through the acts, recreation, and cultural activities. And whereas the city of Goldsboro has many dedicated volunteers who give their time and expertise on boards and committees that benefit our citizens. And whereas volunteer action is a powerful force for the solution of problems, and volunteers are increasingly recognized as an important partner with governmental agencies. And whereas volunteers have become an essential part of our prosperous community, and volunteer services help expand programs and stretch our tax dollars. And whereas Governor Roy Cooper and the Volunteer NC recognized volunteers across the state for their contributions to each 100 counties, and United Way of Wayne County will recognize those volunteers and all Wayne County volunteers on April 18th at 5:30 p.m. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the city of Goldsboro and the city council does hereby proclaim the week of April 16th through the 22nd, 2003 as National Volunteer Appreciation Week, and urge all citizens to recognize and thank our volunteers across this country and within Goldsboro as we acknowledge the importance of our volunteers and take the time to officially thank them for all that they do. In witness thereof, I hereunto set my hand and affix the seal of the city of Goldsboro this 17th day of April 2023.
Present it to Sherry. Okay. Ms. Archibald, please come forward.
Yes, thank you. I would just like to say it's very fitting that Councilmember Matthews shared that proclamation with us. She was a nominee last year. And so United Way is very happy to be able to host for the governor's office for Wayne County every year. And so this year at the Paramount Theater tomorrow night, we're excited to be partnering with the Paramount Theater Foundation to be able to thank all of our volunteers across the county. We recognize that there are so many who are committed to our events in the community, our boards, our committees, not just from United Way, not just from city or county, but all across the county. So it's a time for us to recognize them, thank them, and especially take time to recognize those that have been nominated and will be receiving recognition for the Governor's Volunteer Service Award tomorrow night. So thank you very much for that, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow at the Paramount Theater.
So I want to present this proclamation to you.
Thank
And we'll
you.
have a photograph here made. While this photo is here made, let me tell you that I know this lady very well. And no one in Goldsboro volunteers any more hours than her. We have a lot of great people here who do volunteer work. But she sets an example, and she recruits many volunteers as well. So thank you, Sherry.
You want me to take a picture with you, Tommy?
Oh, sure.
Okay, there we go. Very good.
Oh, one.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
We have another proclamation for National Small Business Week, and we have some people here that's going to participate in this as well. So why don't those of you that are here come on up to the podium. You can read it down there and then ask them if they want to speak and identify themselves.
I'll be reading this proclamation from the floor. And at the closing of this, I'll have you introduce yourselves and what respective agency you represent. National Small Business Week Proclamation. Whereas America's progress has been driven by pioneers who think big, take risks, and work hard. And whereas from the storefront shops to anchor main streets to the high-tech startups that keep America on the cutting edge, small businesses are the backbone of our community and the cornerstones of our nation's promise. And whereas small business owners and Main Street business have energy and a passion for what they do. And whereas when we support small businesses, jobs are created and local communities preserve their unique culture. And whereas because the county's 28 million small businesses create nearly 2 out of 3 jobs in our economy, we cannot resolve ourselves to create jobs and spur economic growth in America without discussing ways to support our entrepreneurs. And whereas the President of the United States has proclaimed National Small Business Week every year since 1963 to highlight the programs and services available to entrepreneurs through the U.S. Small Business Administration and other government agencies. And whereas Goldsboro supports and joins in this national effort to help America's small businesses do what they do best, grow their businesses, create jobs, and ensure that our communities remain as vibrant tomorrow as they are today. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Goldsboro City Council does hereby proclaim April 30th through May 6, 2023 as National Small Business Week in Goldsboro, North Carolina, and declares support for all our small businesses, recognizing innovations and contributions of small businesses, and urges the residents of our community to support small businesses and merchants during Small Business Week and throughout the year. In witness whereof I appear to set my hand and affix and seal the city of Goldsboro, North Carolina, the 17th day of April 23. Signed by Mayor David Hayden. At this time, if anyone would like to speak on what agency represent, you can take it.
Good afternoon, Mr. Guzman. I represent a small business center from Wayne Community College.
Good evening, Robert J. Small Business Center, Briar East Fresh, and also the downtown merchant.
I'm Greg Mills, Business Property and Development Specialist with Downtown Goldsboro Development Corporation.
I'm Donna Phillips, Director of Wayne County Public Library.
Scott Satterfield, Wayne County Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you. And we'll come in and close in. Thank you. Here's the proclamation.
Small business week. Thank you, Scott. We have a certificate of appreciation from the Purple Heart Foundation, and I'm going to ask the individual representing that organization to come forward. You come down there. I can come down there.
No. Do I have to speak?
Just keep going.
Okay, the Goldsboro Wayne Purple Heart Foundation Certificate of Appreciation presented to the City of Goldsboro for your dedicated support and contribution afforded to the honor of those that have borne the battle and have suffered the wounds of war. The 10th Annual Goldsboro Wayne Purple Heart Banquet, 6 August 2022. It's my pleasure to give this to the mayor. It so happens he and I were in the same division back in 1968, and Tanian Province. He was with the Manchus. They rode everywhere. I
We were recognized.
I had to walk. Especially.
Get a little closer here.
Yeah, I appreciate it, my friend.
You know, we have, it's a pleasure for me to accept this on behalf of the City of Goldsboro, especially from the Purple Heart Association for the Wayne County Veterans Coalition. We have a number of veterans here in Goldsboro going back to career. I don't think we have any World War II veterans here. Correct me if I'm wrong, gentlemen. But each year, the Veterans Coalition and the Purple Heart Association has a ceremony to recognize those individuals that received combat wounds, who died from those combat wounds, served in combat, etc. It's a very emotional time, and it's interesting to see how many people that reside here in this county come forward who were recipients of the Purple Heart. You don't win the Purple Heart. You try not to get the Purple Heart, as a matter of fact. But we have a lot of people who have served in various branches of the military here in Wayne County. And I would encourage people our citizens to be aware of that situation. And if you see them, a lot of them wear Purple Hearts, well, not all of them wear Purple Hearts necessarily, some do, but a lot of them wear caps and other paraphernalia that talks about their combat tours of duty or whatever. So we should always show appreciation for our veterans. And gentlemen, on behalf of myself and the City Council and the citizens of the city, thank you for what you do, and I just commend you for everyday duties.
Well, good to see you again.
Thank you, sir. Glad to.
Only took 5 years.
We didn't know we were serving in the same unit at the same time for 55 years there.
I know. Isn't that cool?
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
good.
really. And we're still alive.
Yep, that's right. We are. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a large group of people here tonight to speak, I believe, on the situation that happened last week, the unfortunate and tragic situation that happened last week. So normally, we would go through some other business first before that speaking period is on the agenda. But I've consulted with our council members, and we're going to move that forward. So at this time, I'm going to open up the meeting to public comment. For those of you who want to come and speak, do you have the list there?
Yes, sir.
So the clerk is going to call the names on the list that we have, and please come up in that order. And let me just remind you, if you're not familiar with the ground rules here, the council allocates 30 minutes for public speaking. Within that 30 minutes, each speaker must is given 3 minutes to speak. And at the 30-second time remaining, there'll be a warning beep. And at the end of the 3 minutes, there'll be 2 beeps. And please, in your speaking at that time, please do not go beyond that, because you are taking up someone else's opportunity to speak. So we'll start the speaking now and call the first person.
I do apologize if I mispronounce any names.
And by the way, before that, the speakers be aware that the time is shown on these TV monitors here. So keep your eye on that. Okay, go ahead.
Zaire Webb.
Good evening, sir.
Good. My name is Zaire Webb, and I live on 108 North Slocum Street, and that is about a block away from where this tragic incident happened. And I would like to point out that the people who need to be held accountable have not even been mentioned by anyone that I believe should be saying. The people that own that property have tried to get that property zoned out to be changed from a residential property to a business property since 2016. And this was an illegal event that was held illegally under the nose of the city of Goldsboro. This event should not have even taken place to begin with. And if it were not taking place, then the life that was lost would not have been lost. This event should not have been held. And because of that, I would like the city of Goldsboro to hold the individuals that own that property accountable for the fact that they went underneath the city's nose after getting time and time again getting denied the zoning to turn that into a business property, to allow it to be used for paid events. This was not a pool party like the news tries to paint it. This was not going down to Aunt Susan's house for spring break. It was nothing like that. It was a paid to get in event held by the property owners, and they just in the past couple of months bought up another piece of property in order to make the area of effect even larger, and they plan to continue to do this. They have been doing this time and time again. These events are not new, and they say that they want to continue to hold these events. I would like the individuals that own this property to be held to the same punishment as the person that pulled the trigger, seeing as though they committed a crime, and that crime needs to be accounted for. They need to know what happened, and the community needs to know that if you do a crime, regardless of how much money you have, regardless of your social class or anything, that you will be held accountable. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Stop the clock over there, IT. I'm going to take a minute because I want to just let the public know what has transpired up to this point. Thank you. Okay, good. Get out of here. I want to give you a brief history of the city's involvement in this property. So maybe that will answer some questions as we go along here. So the owner of the property came before the city council back in October of 2016 and asked for a rezoning for the purposes of a B&B to hold, I'm going to quote here so I'm not misstating anything on the page. An application requests a conditional use permit to allow the operation of a bed and breakfast to include receptions, private parties, or similar activities on site. That request was denied. That was October 15, 2016. A letter to that effect was sent to the owner on the 11th, again informing the property owner of the decision of the council. It went out on the 11th of October. The next thing that we had any involvement in was when we received a complaint in January of an event being held there on January 8th, and we sent the property owner a notice advising them that they were in violation.
Was that this year?
No, that was January 11th, 2021. 21. And let me back up a second. Say we actually had one before that. We had one on the 20th of, July 7th of 2020. So before the 2021 January, we sent a letter to the owner, also notifying him that we had received word and did investigate that they'd had a party there and they were in violation, and they were cited for that. We were not aware of the event that was held last week until such time as the tragic news came as a result of the shooting. On Friday morning, I called the owner to come to this office here. On Thursday, Thursday. And we met with the owner's wife and their attorney. And in a very short meeting said, cease and desist. And then we were told by the attorney that they would do so. We followed that up with a letter to them stating that they are to do just that. As of this time, and our attorney's here, Chief, I don't see Chief here, but, Chief, we have the owners, to my knowledge, and I've not been told different, has not committed any criminal violation. Is that correct, Chief?
The investigation isn't complete yet.
Yeah, okay, so far as we know at this time. So I just want the public and speakers tonight to be aware of the fact that that history that has occurred. So as we move forward, you can speak with that information. So I'm going to continue the public speaking. So Ms. Jones, call the next speaker, please.
Christopher, I apologize, I cannot read the last name.
Come on up, sir, and identify yourself.
How y'all doing tonight? Where do I talk at?
Right there.
Can y'all hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
How y'all doing tonight? My name is Christopher Ward. I'm an assistant manager at Piggly Wiggly, and I am nervous. First of all, I just want to thank everybody that came out here. It was brought to my attention that usually y'all room don't look like this on every first and third Monday that y'all have sessions. That says a lot. That says a lot, not just about the community, it says a lot about the people on the panel as well. I just want to say, man, that I hate that this situation is the turnover for so many people being behind me right now. Something has to change. Change starts with self. This is the first meeting I've ever been to. I wasn't even aware of this meeting until Mr. Polak informed me that y'all do this. That says a lot. It says that apparently the community isn't reaching the people on the panel. It says that the people on the panel isn't reaching the community. Somewhere we're dropping the ball, and it takes the whole village to raise one child, is what the Bible I read teach me. A whole village. Not just one person, not just two people. The last time I checked, everybody in this room is dependent upon someone else. God created us to be interdependent. Not independent and not codependent, but interdependent, meaning that we work together for a common purpose. I just want to say, man, that I didn't know what I was going to say when I came up here. I can tell y'all this, I'll be back every first and third Monday until I can see something change, man. I'm tired. The young lady that just got killed, man, was my daughter's age, who lives in a community, man, where violence happens day in and day out. We're all pretty much just subjected to it, and it's almost like we're numb to it, as if it doesn't exist until it's right at our front door. That has to change. We can't keep being reactive to situations. We have to start being proactive. I'm saying I'm starting here today, and I thank y'all for y'all time, and I thank the people for showing up behind me. Y'all have a great night. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay.
Kyle Merritt.
I'm speaking on a different. Use a rezoning petition. It's later on.
Maria Bell.
Praise the Lord, everybody.
Praise the Lord.
I'm glad to be here. I'm speaking on behalf of Jayana Pearsall's mother, Keonda, wave your hand, her grandmother, her pastor, which is her grandfather, her great-great-grandfather, which is my dad, Bishop Carlton Jackson Sr., my mother, who has preceded her in death, Evangelist Bertha Jackson, for decades have served this community. I had a young lady that asked me, why do we think that it's going to be a change because it was one of our children? And you know what I told her? I said, because somewhere along the line, we helped serve and pray for the other children in this community for the last 20 years that have went through things, and somebody got weak along the journey. Somebody got tired. But God chose Jayana family because he knew we was a consistent family. 39 years, the Anointed Jackson sisters traveled the world singing from country to country. 20-something years serving this community food every week, even in the pandemic. We don't stop till change come. So I wanted to say tonight on behalf of the Pearsall family, the Darden family, every mother, every father that have lost a child, there's got to be a change. And if you need help, I got an idea. Let's start with the gun violence, how to put it under control. It's as simple as the 30-day thing that we get when you don't comply. You know how your license expire and things got to go? 90 days. Get these guns registered. If a parent register a gun and give it to their child, they need to be held accountable. They need to know that you're going down for what you done. If it's not registered and you get caught, go to a speedy trial, and at the speedy trial, tell them you got to do the Yama's Law, baby. 190 days. Know why 190? Because it's going to represent the 100 counties for North Carolina in 90 days that you understand you should not be with a gun that is not registered. We need to do something, and we can do it as simple as that, real quick, and send a message. We will not keep going through this, putting these guns in the hands of these young boys and girls, and it's not registered and we don't know where it is. We can do this. And it's as simple as putting it together and getting it to the right place. I love y'all. I pray for you every day. And I'm going to continue to fast and pray for our community. You can get tired of seeing these little lips, because I'm going to keep speaking for Jayana. I love y'all.
Thank you.
Matt Little.
Matt Whittle, Habitat for Humanity Executive Director. Wanted to come tonight in support of Keonda and the Pearsall family. Keonda is one of our Habitat homeowners. She was supposed to dedicate her house on Friday of this past week, and obviously that has been postponed. We will be rescheduling it, and she'll be moving into her new house. But that will be, as you can imagine, an extremely bittersweet event when that does happen. What I wanted to come in and speak on tonight is one, to let the Pearsall family know the Habitat is there with them to support them through this process. Let you all know the Habitat for Humanity is a partner in this city as we work to address issues of violence in the community. We will be here with you to help with that discussion, to help with those efforts, to help with the progress that will be made. There is a lot is power in numbers. You can see behind us. There's power in numbers tonight, and we believe these numbers will continue to be here. It will take issues of gun violence we know go beyond what city councils are able to do. They require state action, requires federal action, but it is communities like Goldsboro that experience tragedies like this that can galvanize our lawmakers to take these issues seriously and to work towards solutions for those. But locally, we can begin to address a lot of the issues that lead to this. We can address the poverty that exists in Goldsboro, the hopelessness that exists in Goldsboro. We can address the needs for affordable housing, the needs for better schools. Those things we can begin to address here. And like I said earlier, it should not take something like this to kickstart those efforts, to galvanize and help folks understand the seriousness of these things and how it is all interconnected. All of these things play a role together. It's one reason I've mentioned many times to y'all individually, to the council as a whole, to the community, the Commission on Community Relations and Development, the need for an affordable housing strategic plan. But I mention that only because it goes beyond housing. We mentioned before, housing is only as safe, you're only as secure in your housing as you feel safe. It goes to crime and safety in the community. All these things are connected together. We're preparing to build a large subdivision. We're beginning plans for that here in Goldsboro. And so we take very seriously our homeowners like Kianda and the ones who will come after her feeling safe in their neighborhoods and their children feeling safe here in the city of Goldsboro. So we look forward to working with you. We'll look forward to partnering with the council and the staff to address these issues. Thank you so much.
Timothy Whitfield.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. My name is Timothy Whitfield. I pastor Refuge Temple Church Outreach Ministries on the corner of Slaughter and Elm Street. I was out of town last week and got the news. I was at a particular store not far from my church one evening, and I saw two ladies that was on a SUV, and I witnessed this with my eyes. There were three ladies. They had ski masks on, and when they opened the door, I saw a rifle. And I saw them doing some signs like this here, telling somebody to come on. So what I did was, I moved my vehicle and I went across the street. I turned my lights out just to see what was going to happen. But I was praying. Nothing didn't happen. So nothing didn't happen. I worked for the city of Goldsboro about 15 years. I was on the safety committee, and the first thing that we say for the city is safety first. We would go in every department, look at stuff and find things that was not safe. In our communities, we need to feel safe. Now, I understand that in our public schools and wherever we go, no one is safe. I understand that. But we as a community, we need to be vigilant. And if you see something, you got to say something. And it ain't snitching. If you see something, you got to say something. And let me say this here. The last three people before the Habitat man came up, he used all his time, but the rest of the people had about 40-some seconds. I'm gonna use their time.
I'm sure you got.
I'm gonna use their time. I'm gonna use their time. They didn't do 3 minutes. I'm gonna use their time.
Sure.
Anyway, but let me say this, Mr. Ham. Let me say this to you. We need to feel safe, although it's not safe. We need to feel safe in this city, in our communities. We need to feel safe. So we're going to hold you all accountable. This is not going to be my last night coming to these meetings. My name's Timothy Whitfield. I'm the pastor of Refuge Temple Outreach Team, and I approve this message.
Okay, who's next?
Trevor Jackson.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I come from a wealth of areas that of great concern. I come as a citizen of Goldsboro of Goldsboro, North Carolina. I also come as an individual that grew up in West Haven when we used to call it West Hale. I also come as a former Goldsboro police officer for 7 years. Matter of fact, I worked with Mike. We was on A shift together. I also come as an individual that worked with the Department of Juvenile Justice for 30 years as a juvenile court counselor. I also come as an executive pastor of Deeper Life Church Ministries. And I come in the capacity of concern. I come as a neighbor in that community. I live at 304 Creek Street. I specifically, when I bought that house, Mr. Sherman Best built that house. I wanted a new house. You can't get a new house in the city because it ain't too many places you can build it. But I wanted my kids to go to Goldsboro High School. I want us to create a community and an atmosphere that's conducive for our kids to be able to move, be, and exist. We have the right to live in liberty, life, and in happiness. In our community, I was standing outside when I heard those shots go down. I was getting ready to go to the lighthouse and get me a pork chop sandwich. But my concern here is this. Mayor Ham, my pastor, Pastor Aaron McNair Jr., we came to you and sat down and talked to you. We want to work with you about our community. We want to work with you to deal with these type of issues. We're trying to reach our region and our community. People have seen us in the community. We've been doing things, and we want to be a part of the solution. There needs to be a solution. This cannot be a one-trick pony. This cannot be a one-time moment. It's time for us to arise and let our enemies be scattered. It's time for God to move. It's time for us to unite. And we as a people, we as a community, we as Goldsboroians need to continue to come together. Be a part of what you're doing, but make sure that we support, get involved, be engaged. And we want to be a part of it. We want to hear more about what's going to be done to create atmospheres conducive for these youth. They shouldn't even have to just go there. They should have opportunities and places to go. They should have opportunities and turns and the ability to be in an atmosphere where they can just release and relate. So I say, let's come together. I say, Goldsboro, let's come together. It's time for us to come together, work with the city, work with the police department, work with our churches and our community, because we got to let God arise and let our enemies be scattered. I guarantee you, I will be back. I came to your office, sat down. My pastor, Aaron McNair, people have seen what we're doing. In the words of Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'll be back. Jesus said it. I'll be back.
Tiffany Lawson.
Good evening,
Good evening, ma'am.
Mr. Gaylor. My name is Tiffany Lawson, and I'm an attorney here in Wayne County. I actually work for a firm based out of San Pedro, California, Frost Law Firm. More importantly, I am the vice president of the Judicial Bar, Wayne, Lenoir, and Greene County. And I'm also the cousin of Juliana Pearsall. Rarely has a month gone by without a mass shooting, and many communities are ravaged daily by gun violence that does not make news headlines. Individuals have used firearms to take countless innocent lives in concerts, churches, and now even pool parties. This memory is forever etched in the memories of this community. We as a community must act to stem the tide of bloodshed and the hatred that drives it. We cannot allow such massacres to become routine in our communities. We stand together today in recognition of all of those who have been touched by the tragedy of gun violence. We also stand together with resolve and hope for the future. Thank you.
Tasha Adams.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening. To the mayor and the city council, I bring you greetings from 305 South Leslie Street. I grew up on 105 South Leslie Street here in Goldsboro. I have a lot of concerns, and I also have a lot of solutions to go with the concerns. One of the things that I want to say is that Leslie Street has a very rich history that very few people know about. People don't understand and may have a perception that Leslie Street is about uneducated African American people. I am a retired principal who decided to go back to work as an educator to make a difference in the lives of children. We have members in our community that are over 100 years old. My father and my grandfather grew up on 105 South Leslie Street in Goldsboro. Last summer, I had to call the police because someone was sitting on my mother's front porch. I didn't realize that it was a stranger. And I had to call someone to come and remove that person from her front porch because she was scared. We should not have to live in fear, and neither should our children. I have a 14-year-old son who attends Wayne Technical School on base. He walks to my mother's house every morning to catch the bus. I should not have to worry whether or not my son is going to make it from 305 South Leslie Street to 105 South Leslie Street. I want to see something done. I want to see more police presence in the place. I want to see safety where I don't have to worry about my mother and my neighbors and how they're feeling and how they're doing. I've already spoken to my city council representative about this, but I will be back as well. I'm willing to serve if need be, but I need to see something change like yesterday. I am sorry for the family who lost a loved one. I really am. But we've got to do better than this. The children need someplace to go, someplace to be entertained, to enjoy life, not this. This is truly unnecessary, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Patrick.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, City Manager. My name is Patrick Lechner. I'm here on behalf of Laterica Saunders and also to address the issues that just happened over the past weekend. Unfortunately, she couldn't make it here tonight due to some issues with her schooling where she had already had some pre-engagements. Her son was one of the victims as well, who was shot in the foot, Jose. Last year, her son, I don't know if you guys remember, but Vajay was killed March 16th, just a little over a year ago. Within a little bit over a year, she almost lost 2 children from gun violence. Now, I understand that there is an issue and that things need to be done, but one of the biggest things that really need to be done is speaking up. It's hard for me to understand or even wrap around my head how something like this could happen in broad daylight, where 5 young children got shot, 1 lose their life, and nobody say nothing. or nobody know nothing. Trick Daddy said it best. Everybody knows somebody that knows something about it. It is time to speak up. If we really want this to end, we need to speak up, and it starts with us. Thank you all.
Thank you. Okay. Is there any other speakers? Anyone else who wishes to speak? Okay, I'm going to close the. Oh, okay. Come on up now.
My name is Barbara
Can you
Williams.
sign this roster, please?
Let me sign it.
Stop the clock there a second.
Stop. We'll sign it, baby. You ready?
Hold on a second. Go ahead and start the clock. Go ahead.
My name is Barbara Williams. I'm a resident in Goldsboro, North Carolina. Been here for 61 years. This is my home. And I want to thank the mayor and the council panel for having us here tonight to express what happened. Now, I just want to say that Gianna is my niece. She's gone on. But the other 5 kids that got shot, if we really look at the big picture, it's supposed to have been 6 people dead, but God. But in the transitioning, the 5 that got shot, it got back to me because I know how to get help for young people because I've been doing it all my life, helping young people. We need to come up with something where these 5 kids that survived this tragedy, they have counseling, them and their family. Because just like we're here planning the funeral for this Wednesday, it could have been the other way around. And I see y'all on TV, and I watch you, you good peoples. And the Goldsboro Police Office, I call them Goldsboro Finest. Because anything go down, I cause them. Thank you.
Okay. We have no other speakers. Okay, if you want to speak, please come forward, and because we're getting close to the time.
I am before you long to catch some of the mayors about community. I wasn't going to say nothing because I've been saying something all week, but I feel like I need to say something because I'm a mother. I have teenagers. I have grandkids that's going to grow up in this society in North Carolina and Wayne County, Goldsboro, that one day got to walk the streets to go to school, got to walk the streets to go to their grandma's house, their Gigi house. And you keep saying you give these people warnings about running illegal Airbnb. They always told me 3 strikes, you're out. So at the 3rd strike, 3rd one, something should be done then. Somebody should have went over there. Let's go. But nobody, at the 3rd, you gave them a letter. You probably gave them notice. It's a big difference between the letter and notice. And I'm angry. You know why I'm angry? Because my cousin don't deserve to be burying her baby. You can't say that. Oh, well, we sent them a letter. We sent them a notice. Because you may have, you got kids. I'm pretty sure everybody on this panel got kids, right? How would you feel anybody on this panel come and somebody say, well, man, we saw your baby's gone. She can't get her baby back. That man and woman who own Airbnb, you know I can say that? Because I try to have something for kids to do. People to have somewhere to go to have a good time. Every time I ever been at my house on 315 B Street, ain't scarce in my address, I could have a cookout for my family. And you know what happened? And I got witnesses. I don't be doing that sometimes. And they come up there and bother me. But ma'am, I heard you having a party. It can be innocent. And I don't be doing jack. And they come up there and bother me. Music don't be loud. I said, again, I'm just trying to enjoy my family. Trying to give back to the community. It's something that we ain't doing right now. We sit here behind our pulpits, desk, and we ain't doing nothing. But giving notice. Shut it down. Shut it down. We want answers. We want answers. We want resolution. On something to be done. Know why? Because you go on your kids right tonight. We want to go to our kids too. And see them get married, get an education, finish school, enjoy life. We just want justice for my little cousin. Now you got your 50.
If we have no one else to speak, I'll close the public speaking. Let me just say that some comments have been mentioned tonight that have been mentioned previously. I've mentioned some, those in the audience have mentioned them, members of this council have mentioned. And I want to speak to a comment that Pastor Whitfield mentioned. And Pastor, I'm not picking on you, but I'm just going to use this as an example. We've said time and time again, and it's been said by a speaker tonight, if you see something, say something and report it. Now, if you see two people in a vehicle with ski masks on and weapons, don't go in and close your door. Call the police. Call the police. You haven't stopped a crime by simply closing the door and turning off the lights. We've said it over and over again. To help this situation out, it starts at the home, on the street, in the church, and so forth. I appreciate all the comments that have been said tonight directed to this council and to me personally. But we have limited legal things that we can do here. We're not going to go out and create a atmosphere where we're having a situation where you have to be in your house at 8 o'clock at night and nobody can be on the streets. It could come to that, but we don't want it to happen. We are not going to enact any illegal rules or laws here. That's not going to help the situation. But we're going to do what we can do. And what I said last week, and what I've said since then many times, and what has been reiterated here tonight. There are people in this audience who said they have ideas, they have plans. I said last week, if you have an idea, come to us and talk to us about it. We want to help the situation. I think I speak for every member of this council. But if you've got an idea, come and talk to us. Or we'll go talk to you, as the case may be. But we have a police force that is shorthanded. We'd love to have 108 uniformed policemen. That's what we're authorized. But we don't. We probably have close to 30 personnel shortages right now. I swore one in last Monday, just a couple of days before that incident. I swore some in week before. I swear police in periodically. But we have police to leave for whatever reason. It's a challenging job, ladies and gentlemen. It's a challenging job. But we can, you can, the audience here, and the people that are going to watch this, the citizens of Goldsboro, can bring about some change if you will help us and help the police department identify people who are responsible and who may be planning to commit some crime. We're not going to go out there and start arresting people who we think might be criminals or who might possess a weapon. You're not going to like that, and we're not going to do that. So we can be somewhat proactive, but a lot of times we're reactive. But we need your help. I mean this sincerely. We really need your help. I appreciate everyone that's come here tonight to speak, and I'm sure the council members, if they want to speak, they can certainly do so. But I appreciate the show of force, we call it in the military, a show of force that comes here and brings. It's impressive that people come here. It was impressive last Thursday when we did the vigil, the prayer vigil, walked around the block and saw the people there that walked silently behind pastors and lay people praying for a solid block and gathered to speak. The show of support and sympathy and condolences for the families that were the injured members of the families, injured members whose families were there, and Miss Joanna Pearsall and her family members who are here tonight walked there. This meant something to that family, that people came out there that night. I think it means something tonight for them to be here as well. So I'm gonna, if any other council member wants to speak, please do.
I have something that I want to say in my closing remarks that I have prepared, but while we're on the topic, since Mr. Lechner spoke on it, somebody knows somebody that knows somebody. And like I told my students today, we kind of laid low today. We didn't really get into the curriculum, but I told these kids, what you don't say today may lead up to next week, your family member getting killed because you're hiding and covering for somebody else. And the part that bothers me, y'all, is this culture of saying no snitching and this and that. Well, I use the analogy, if you have a 90-year-old woman on this side of the wall that you hear screaming and getting beat every day, are you not going to call the police because you hear that person getting beat that you know is a 90-year-old woman? But then when you compare that same situation to somebody that you see and witness get killed, but you keep your lips shut, it's the same situation. It's going to be a domino effect until somebody ends up worse. And unfortunately, we have a march. Like I said, 2 weeks later, somebody else is dead. We have a rally, balloon release, T-shirts made. 2 weeks later, somebody else is dead. But we need to hold, like you said, everybody accountable for this. Everybody. And I'm talking about the owners of the property. This is something I've dealt with since I've been on this council and before I've been on this council. And excuse me for being upset when I say this, but this could have been avoided. Had this been in the upper echelon community, somebody would have been prosecuted. I'm sorry. I just feel that way. I could be wrong in what I'm saying. But I encourage those of you that are home tonight that hear my voice and have heard the people speak tonight, please let it be known who these people are. It was broad daylight. I was there 30 minutes before this happened. I saw people that I can count that I saw. So somebody out there knows who did what they did. That's all I have to say.
Anyone else want to speak?
I would like to say to the family that I am so sorry for your loss. And the 5 that are there, I am so sorry. And my heart grieves. And I know that God's heart is grieving as well. The operative word in proactive is active and action. I think it's commendable that we do rallies and that we march and we stand up and talk, but there has to be action. We have to be proactive. I am a mother. There are mothers out there, there are grandmothers, and their aunts, and their sisters. I'm calling on every woman that is an intercessor to begin to pray for this city and to begin to pray for this family. We also need prayer because God will give us the wisdom that we need. We can come up with all the perfect plans, but our first thing is to pray and intercede. So I'm asking you tonight, right now, that you begin to intercede. In every church, I know that there is an intercessory prayer team. And if you hear me, and if you're in here, I'm asking that you begin to pray for this family, for this city, and we need community engagement. We have gotten to the point that we don't even know who live next to us. We go to work and we go home. Most of us do not go to church in our district. So then we don't even know our neighbors. That has got to change. That has got to change. So please, put the action in proactive. And let's get busy for our children and for our youth. They need us. And they need all of us. Because today, it was this family. Tomorrow, it will be another family. So I'm asking you to get on your knees and ask God for wisdom to help us with this city of Goldsboro. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak?
I won't be long, but so many times I have sat here and we talk about getting together and having meetings and what can we do. I have oftentimes challenged this board to let's just do something. Let's just try something. I remember not too long ago that it was quickly implemented a curfew when those of us decided to stand with the George Floyd family for justice on his behalf. Some business owners downtown were worried about their properties being vandalized or whatever they thought. The city implemented a curfew immediately to protect those businesses and to ensure everybody was home. I'm asking the city, let's do it. Let's do it until we get to see some change. Let's do it until these people that were behind those guns are arrested. We also have a pot of money that we are talking about giving to nonprofits. I say we take that pot of money and earmark it for organizations that are doing crime prevention. Or we can say we can take that $160,000 and earmark it for persons and churches and organizations who have ideas, because it's going to take money at some point. So I'm saying let's not wait to sit down with individuals. Let's stop waiting to sit down with organizations. What can we do as a board right now? And even if it's not right now at 8:06, it needs to be right now in this moment, because he's right. It'll just be another one. We talked about it in January. We talked about it in February. I am asking this board to do something now. A curfew may not be the answer, but a curfew is something we can do right now. If we did it to protect our downtown businesses, we can do it to protect our black and brown bodies that keep hitting the ground. There is nothing that I can say to comfort your hearts. Nothing. But I will make it my business to ensure I hold myself, this board, our city staff, and our entire community accountable for doing our part. I love you. Be safe.
And we can also take that money to provide a place for our youth to go, so that they don't have to go to rent a place like they rented. If we got that money, we can take that money to provide a very nice place, somewhere to go during the summer. Pay someone to be part-time or whatever is there. We can do that. I agree.
Okay, is there any other comment? Okay, I'm going to close the public comment period and move up on to other business. Anybody that wants to stay can stay, but we're going to move to other business. If you don't want to stay, you can leave at this time. Yes. Yeah.
It's good to meet you, sir. I just had a quick question while we're paused to let these folks leave.
I'm sorry?
I just had a quick question while we're paused to let these folks leave.
Yeah.
Do you know how these folks were able to book or rent out this property, whether they used Airbnb or some other service?
They contacted the owner of the property. And then,
directly?
Yes.
Gotcha.
They did not know where they required. Well, they didn't have permission to use it, first of all.
Right.
They did it and just...
Didn't have the property owner's permission, or didn't have the city's
property
permission?
owners did. Property owners were not authorized.
Hey, did you get my
Thank you very
message?
much.
Well, it's got like their email address and stuff.
Huh?
Yeah, I should be able to get it. It'll probably be okay. Yeah.
Austin, hold up just a second. Okay. Okay, we're going to move into the public hearing at this time, and the first item on the agenda is a item that I have a conflict of interest in, so I'm going to ask to be recused. My wife and I attend the church, the subject of this, and so I'm going to ask to be recused, and I'll pass it to the Mayor Pro Tem. So if I may have a motion to, motion to recuse.
You have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Okay. All right, this time I'll be taking over public hearing in reference to UDO-1-23, Article 5, Section 5.5.4, special use, specific use regulations, bars, nightclubs, pool halls, microbreweries, places of entertainment, both public, private, and for profit, with ABC permit, and I now turn it over to planning for your presentation.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Polak. Just to bring council back up to speed on this, this first came before you at March 20th, was continued to April 3rd, and then due to all council members not being present, was continued again to tonight's hearing. The applicant is Kyle Merritt, and this is a text amendment request to our city UDO to remove language from the UDO regarding how we measure distance between these types of places of entertainment with ABC permits and between churches and schools. Here you can see the image of the property that is proposed to be utilized if this text amendment passes. And I'll just be brief with this because I know council's familiar with this from previous hearings. So this is located in our central business district, which comprises all of South Oak Street, north of Elm Street, includes the area between George and William Street. And this district has been designed to encourage a mix of high-intensity pedestrian uses that are going to be arranged around our existing compact core to promote downtown's continued success and redevelopment. Here you can see the central business district. And so the land use plan classifies this as falling within mixed use downtown, and this is continue to focus on the improvement of the downtown Goldsboro area. And so currently the way that we measure distance in the UDO, no consideration is given to intervening structures, roads, or landforms, which means the right-of-way that exists between this proposed structure and St. Stephen's Church would not be able to count in order to achieve the distance requirement to establish this certain type of use here. So this is how the text is proposed to read, to remove that portion that reads with no consideration as to intervening structures, roads, or landforms. Here's just an aerial image of Mulberry Street where the property is located at. And so again, this is located at 116 West Mulberry Street. It's proposed for church spirits and cocktails. And here you can see it sits directly across from St. Stephen's Episcopal Church. This is another view from the street. And so in staff's evaluation, we just want to point out that this text amendment would allow for that right-of-way to count for the distance separation. It would change how distance is measured. And also, if this text amendment passes, keep in mind this still requires a special use permit, which would have to come to council, undergo quasi-judicial review in order to receive approval to operate there, where other types of conditions could be placed upon it as determined necessary by council. And so for that reason, we're not recommending approval or denial. We're just acknowledging that fact that council still holds the ultimate power in approving any types of these uses before they come into operation due to it requiring quasi-judicial review. This was heard by the Planning Commission back in February. They voted 3 against and 2 in favor. And at this time, if council has any further questions on this, I can answer them at this time.
Does anyone have any questions for him at this time? Okay, on the board, there being none, this is a public hearing. Anybody that would like to speak in the audience for or against, please give your name and they need to be sworn in.
Mr. Merritt?
No, this is not quasi.
Okay, so, okay, I'm sorry. You can speak.
David Elliott. I pastor St. James and Zion Church on Georgia Spruce Street. I understand, I think the city's plan to continue to develop the city is a beautiful thing. But being a pastor, having a bar 50 feet from our church lines, when I know what people do at bars, you get drunk and you do other things. I think that is a danger for most churches, as well as for my own, considering we have events at nighttime. And most of the time you have elderly people walking out of the church. So I'm against this, but I will let my peace be known.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Does anyone else from the audience care to speak on behalf, for or against?
Good evening. I'm going to read something that I wrote last time. I think a few people were missing. And I understand that some council members did their homework and went and talked to some local businesses in the church across the street, which I appreciate that. I did the same. So I have a little letter that I'm going to read that was written from the business owners of Herology, which is a neighboring building. And I'm going to read it word for word of what was sent to me. It says, this letter was written to support Church Spirits and Cocktails. We consider their business an asset to downtown. Since opening, they have partnered and participated in downtown functions. Their support of downtown development and fellow business owners has been above and beyond in their short time here. They hosted the Best of the Boot, which was a great county event. They hosted a charity brunch event to support Wayne County Boys and Girls Club as well, bringing people downtown that may not usually come. As a business downtown, church is the kind of partner we are happy to support. The proposed move next to Herology is welcome. Our business would not be impacted negatively by Church Spirits and Cocktails. They are clean, well-kept, and an upscale atmosphere that attracts many downtown business professionals. We don't see having them as neighbors anything but an asset. The concept, especially Kyle, Shogo, and staff, are exactly what downtown needs. All the renovation and time spent attracting businesses here should not be deterred by preventing their growth. Lauren Sasser-Britt, Stephanie Smith, and Hope Hill. And then I'm going to read as well something that I prepared last time I was here. So since our last meeting, I have made contact with business owners in close proximity to 116 West Mulberry. I have made contact with Father David Wiley, Warden Catherine McDonald, and Warden Betty Duncan at St. Stephen's Church. The business owners held no reservations to my establishment being near them, and the church took no position on the matter. They were neither for nor against it and decided not to comment on a government matter. I asked for a letter, and they decided not to provide one because it is a government matter. My hope is that this ordinance is amended not just for my business, but also future business owners that want to come downtown, as well as the use of this specific property. By not updating the ordinance, it limits future tenants who may want to start a place of entertainment, whether it be a restaurant, bar, or an establishment like Paint and Play. Currently, my business is 3 doors away from Harvest Fellowship Church on Walnut Street, which is also a freestanding church. We have been able to coexist with them for over a year without any issues. The establishment that was in our current space before us was also a place of entertainment, and there were no issues with them either. I'd also like to mention that there are only 2 blocks in the Central Business District that this ordinance really affects. There is also no schools in the Central Business District. The blocks that this affects is the one that I'm currently on, or currently trying to move to, and the intersection of Mulberry and James. Chestnut and John is the other intersection that this would affect, which I would also like to mention that the Elks Lodge is in, and they have been able to coexist with First Baptist Church for a long time without any apparent issues. Council, I would like to make sure that we are all on the same page. I'm not suggesting that the proximity of a place of entertainment to a church be less than 50 feet. I'm just suggesting that 50 feet should just be 50 feet. This ordinance currently cuts off future business owners at the knee and it doesn't give us a fair chance to apply for a special use permit. Places of entertainment are economic drivers for downtown Goldsboro. They are essential for the growth of our city. I have provided you with 2 scenarios where a place of entertainment and a church can coexist. I truly hope you can make a change to this ordinance or some kind of exception to it. Thank you.
Sir, before you leave the podium, I wanted to ask, open it up to the council, if they have any questions. I have one myself, but I'll,
Okay. I wasn't gonna say anything about that, but you spoke about the winery that was there before. And, in doing my research, that the winery was there, but it was not, a bar and spirits. So in speaking with, city council, in speaking with the city manager, did you walk off those feet? Because if not, are they even in compliance now with serving? Because the business that was there before was not a bar. Am I correct?
No.
That's my understanding.
It was a wine bar,
Okay.
which was a place of
I haven't
entertainment.
walked off the distance.
Say what?
I haven't walked off the distance.
Okay.
Again,
So,
I think
yeah.
there's a difference in a freestanding structure and an attached structure.
Say that again?
Was a difference in a freestanding structure was the issue.
Okay.
Which is,
Okay. Well,
It was approved as a place of entertainment, so,
Yeah, to-
bar and place of entertainment could be paint and play, restaurant, bar. Am I correct?
I am speaking mainly of, and let me make this clear. I am not personally against anyone drinking or anyone having a bar or like that, but whenever this ordinance is changed, it affects the city, not just this area. Am I not correct?
That's correct.
Correct.
So whenever we change this ordinance, it doesn't mean that just church and spirits can move there. It means it impacts the whole city. That means that if there's a church over there or wherever, if a bar decides to move over there, they can move over there.
It's just within the central business district.
Okay. Thank you.
The question I had for you, I heard you mentioning the hairology kind of co-signed for the usage. I guess what I'm asking, my wife is a hairstylist, so the hours of operations I'm sure would conflict with their business anyway, right? So what are the hours of operation?
You said the hours of operation would or would not?
Conflict with the hours at the bar. I mean, most times you think about a bar's after 6, after 7.
We open at 5 p.m.
Okay.
on Wednesday from 5 to 10 o'clock. And on Thursday, we open from 5 to 12. And on Friday and Saturday, we open from 5 to 1 a.m.
From 5 to 1 a.m. So, not an expert in hair salons, but that would probably be after their hours of operation. So they probably wouldn't be there anyway, right? And I don't know if there's a representative here from that agency, that business, that can
Not
speak
currently.
on that. So, I just want to make sure that these people, these individuals you speak of that are in favor of this, are people that are not going to be affected, you know. So it seems like they're not, being that your hours of operations are kind of after their hours. So
I would agree.
I just wanted to make that point. That's all I had to ask.
Well, I spoke to them as well, and I was very surprised to see this letter, and I'm pretty sure you know that I spoke with them.
Sure.
And their concern to me was they do park there late at night on Friday night and Saturday night. And they did have a little concern there. That's what was shared with me. But, you know, and they also said that if you were, neat and clean, but they did have some concern with them leaving. Sometimes there's 2 or 3 hairdressers there that's working, and sometimes maybe one is still working in there, and they did have that concern. And I did speak with both of them. I spoke with a lot of people. So I was, kind of concerned. I was kind of surprised whenever you read that letter, because I had spoken with them.
I'm surprised by your comment as well that they would say that. I feel like they'd be very happy to have somebody outside or around when they're walking from their car at nighttime to their business or from their business to their
Yeah, the
vehicle.
right people, I can understand.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
I want to be real clear about what it is that we're discussing right now. We're not discussing specifically Kyle's establishment. That would come in a special use permit after the fact. I personally think that your associate Shogo is one of the finest craft makers that I've met from New York to Chicago to to Miami. Where we are right now is if we would change the ordinance to where there even could be the conversation. And you and I have spoken a couple of times. I really appreciate the conversation. My stance is that the Planning Commission has a role in this, and they took their time, they took their energy in going through and weighing this, because it is tough and there was a split vote. But ultimately the Planning Commission, their stance was, and I think for good reason, and I personally and my vote put a lot of weight on the work and the effort that they do to not change the ordinance at this time. I do not want to come across as speaking ill of your establishment in any way. I think you have a fine business. I think you have a good clientele. Just speaking to the change in the ordinance at this time, limiting the conversation to that, from me to you, the Planning Commission, I think, is giving me the guidance that I have to have.
And Mr. Gaylor, can you tell me how many people are on the Planning Commission?
There were 5 that were able to cast votes that evening.
How many are there total? 9 or 11, I believe.
Right.
So when that council meeting was, or that planning meeting was held, was it, my question would be, if all members were there, would the vote been changed, or would the votes been different? Because just like when I spoke up here 2 weeks ago, we moved to press this matter on to where there was more people that could give a vote. So I would just like for you guys to consider that as well.
Just to speak to the Planning Commission, we have 7 Planning Commission members. We have to have a majority of the members there to have a quorum to hold a meeting. We had a quorum, and the vote is 3-2 as stated in the report, just to clarify that.
Thank you.
All right. Does anyone else have anything to say? So at this point, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
At this point, it brings us to our motion for UDOs. I'm going to read them both, and we all have them on the inside. I'm sorry.
There's nobody else to speak.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Is there anyone else that wants to speak in reference to this matter?
We just close the public.
There being none, I now close this public hearing. Yeah. Do you have anything, Mr. Austin, before I bring?
So now, just move into your voting now.
Okay, do you have any questions, applicants to speak? Okay, so, is there a motion? I can read this now?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Is there a motion to adopt the recommendation for denial and consistency statement that the Goldsboro Planning Commission has provided, and adopt the denial ordinance with the inclusion of the inconsistency statement? Or is there a motion to approve and adopt the ordinance to approve with the inclusion of a statement that deems this conditional rezoning request to be consistent? Can I get a motion on one of
I
those?
move that we not change the ordinance.
To deny.
To deny it.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor to deny.
Second.
I have a second. Okay. Questions? No, there be no questions, all in favor? Raise your right hand. Okay, it's unanimous vote. Okay, thank you. At this time, we'll call for Mayor Ham to come back in. Do we have to have a motion for him to come back? Okay. Somebody let Mayor Ham know that he can come back. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, sir.
Next item on the, oops, my last here. Next item on the agenda is the contiguous annexation petition for New Hope Place LLC.
Yes, sir, Mayor Ham. This annexation request is the public hearing for New Hope Place LLC. Property is located on the north side of Kyler Best Road between Oxford Boulevard and Glenda's Drive. Property consists of just over 14 acres. Property is currently zoned residential 9, and the applicant is requesting this property to be annexed into the city. This property has already been approved for an 80-unit multifamily development. Here you can see the aerial of the property where it sits right off of Kyler Best Road. So to give you a timeline on this annexation, this received staff level approval for a 80-unit multifamily development, which is permitted by right back in September of last year. City Clerk Laura Getz certified sufficiency on March the 24th. We set the public hearing for tonight at our April 3rd meeting. Whenever this was sent out to various departments within the city for their estimation of service and sufficiency to the property, the police identified that they could serve the property with their existing personnel and equipment, as well as fire, inspections, utilities, public works. The engineering department surveyor has certified that the boundary of this property is valid and does close, and engineering does have the ability to serve this property. There were no concerns with finance, and planning also has the ability to serve this. Looking at the estimated revenue pre-development, as it sits now, we're looking at $1,914.88. Per the North Carolina general statutes, the city is required to pay a proportionate share of any payments due on debt relating to facilities and equipment for rural fire departments. When doing the calculation, the city came up that the amount does not exceed $100, and there will be no proportionate share that's due to the Sawston Volunteer Fire Department. This area will become part of the District 5 voting district unless directed otherwise. And by motion, after the conclusion of this hearing, adopt the ordinance to annex this tax parcel or deny this annexation request.
Okay, this is the public hearing for the contiguous annexation petition, New Hope Road Place LLC. Anyone wishing to speak for or against, please come forward. Anyone wishing to speak? Okay, we do not have anyone wishing to come to speak. Let me ask the council members if they have any questions of Austin. If not, then we will go forward and say, is there a motion to adopt the ordinance annexing the property stated on the memo?
So moved. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by raising your hand. All opposed? We have none opposed. The motion carries. Excellent.
The next
one is contiguous annexation petition, the Highlands Trail. So go ahead.
Yes, sir, Mayor Ham. This is an annexation request for 3 parcels located off of West New Hope Road between Somerville Lane and Twin Oaks Place. The total of these 3 parcels come out to 19.35 acres. The owner and the applicant is J.D. Gupta. Property is currently zoned residential 12, a conditional zoning district. This property was approved for a 62-lot subdivision whenever it underwent that conditional rezoning process. And here you can see the 3 parcels in their relation to West New Hope Road. And so to give you a timeline of how we got where we are tonight, back on June 6, 2022, this property underwent its rezoning. City Clerk Laura Getz certified sufficiency on March the 14th, and at our April 3rd meeting, council set tonight, April 17th, for the public hearing. Looking at city departments and services, police, fire, inspections, utilities, and public works can all serve this location with their existing personnel and equipment. Again, engineering has certified the boundary of this property that it does close, and they are able to provide service to the location. Finance has no concerns, and planning has the ability to serve the property as well. Looking at the pre-development estimated value here prior to the 62 lot subdivision, you're looking at $2,106.64. Whenever this was sent out to the Belfast Volunteer Fire Department to receive their debt numbers for calculation, we've not yet received them at this time. We don't anticipate it exceeding $100, therefore we don't anticipate having to make payments, but if so, planning will coordinate with the finance department to provide these payments. And so this area is proposed to become part of the District 3 voting district unless directed otherwise. And at this time, by motion, council shall either adopt the ordinance to annex these 3 tax parcels into the city or deny this annexation request.
Okay, this is a public hearing for the contiguous annexation petition for Highland Trails. Anyone wishing to speak for or against, please come forward. Anyone wishing to speak for or against? I'll ask the council if they have any further questions. If not, is there a motion to adopt the ordinance annexing the properties stated on the memo?
So moved. Second.
Motion is made and second. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor of adopting, please signify by raising your hand. Now we have a special use application. Special use 6-23, place of entertainment, no ABC permit. Go ahead, sir.
Get sworn.
Okay, anyone wishing to speak? Well, come on up. Hold on a second, Holly. Anyone wishing to speak, come on up and get sworn in.
Good evening, council members.
You got to get sworn in.
Oh,
first.
I already
So you just
Swear in.
raise your right hand and put your right hand here. Do you swear that the comments you are about to give are the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you?
I do. Yes, sir. I'm gonna do my presentation real quick. Yes, sir, you're fine. Thank you, Mayor. This is a special use request for 307 North Berkeley Boulevard, specifically for Suites E and F. The property is owned by AVI Investments LLC. The applicant is Trita Oates. This property is located in the shopping center zoning district with a commercial land use designation, and she is requesting a special use permit here to establish a place of entertainment with no ABC permit. So here you can see this aerial image. This is where the Dunham's Sporting Goods store is. If everybody's familiar with that, that's kind of the biggest business that currently comprises this shopping center off of North Berkeley. So looking at the current district that this property lies within, the shopping center district was established to provide for a mix of these retail and service establishments in one development that are going to promote high quality, unified, accessible developments for the community and area. Here you can see the zoning district with general business on either side of it. Looking at the land use plan recommendation, it falls within the commercial designation. This is given based off its proximity to these existing major transportation corridors and other commercial development, and this designation does encourage infill development to take place, which is what this would qualify as, occupying two vacant units here. Here you can see commercial with some mixed use adjacent to it on the adjacent parcel. So whenever this went out for TRC comment review, there's not been any comments generated on this or concerns. This will be required to go through site plan review if approved before occupancy. And so looking here, you can see kind of the dimensions of these two units, as it would be upfit, both units would be upfit to operate as one space. And this is kind of just some renderings of how it's proposed to operate. And so business specific info, the hours of operation are proposed to be 8 a.m. to midnight, Sunday through Saturday. The types of uses that are anticipated to occur here without the ABC permit to serve as a flexible space for birthday parties. If somebody wants to rent it out for a business conference meeting, somebody would like to have a reunion there, maybe some type of, baby shower, some type of flexible place for entertainment. Employees would be 5 total. Some volunteer employees are included in this number. In conversations with Ms. Oates, it did sound like she had some volunteer help that she would be employing here with herself. So parking, we do have staff conditions on that we'll get to. And maintenance and repair would be performed on an as-needed basis, and trash collection would be contracted and scheduled to occur either bi-weekly, weekly, or certain events as needed. And so this would qualify as infill development. This would operate in that as a flexible event space. The one condition that staff is recommending is to be that a shared parking agreement needs to be made between AVI Investments and one of the adjacent commercial properties in that area in order to accommodate the additional parking that is required for this use. Currently, that shopping center there, with the uses that are in existence, almost all units are occupied except for maybe one. Dunham's, the size of that business, it does require a large deal of parking there. You also have a restaurant in that shopping center that requires a large amount of parking. So some parking would need to be accommodated on an adjacent parcel. We would just ask a condition be that shared parking be required. And so at this time, if council has any questions, I can answer them at this time.
Anyone have any questions of Mr. Brinkley?
So the shared parking, so is that going to be responsibility of the tenant, or are you suggesting that the landlord, the commercial operator, be asked to go back and negotiate that with the neighbor?
So the way that we have it worded here is AVI Investments to organize that shared parking agreement with that adjacent parcel. That being, they're the ones responsible for that agreement, knowing that the tenant occupying it has that agreement in place, rather than leaving it up to a tenant. And we do have specific standards for that agreement in the UDO as well.
And do we have any authority to go back and require AVI to make an adjustment, given that they had to build a certain number of parking spaces on the front end for the development? How does that work?
So there's not any more space on that parcel to add any more additional parking.
Right.
The UDO does allow for shared parking to take place whenever it's present on other properties. So the existing parking there could accommodate for it.
So back over, just on the, I guess that would be the northern side? Over there by Pets Plus Plus? Is that?
Yes, sir. So on either one, really, whoever they enter into a contract with to accommodate for it.
And if the neighbor says no?
If the neighbor says no, the use can't occupy those units because they don't have valid parking for it.
So you would deny it based on the...
Yeah, we wouldn't issue staff approval.
Yeah.
You have to put a condition.
Yeah, right.
This is a special use. Once he gets that, then.
Yeah, this is for the use itself.
Sorry, last question. I know I'm talking way too much about this. Roughly how many parking spaces, additional parking spaces, do you suggest they need?
For a place of entertainment, the UDO requires around 70 for this size of place of entertainment.
So how many spaces in the existing development roughly would you count towards at 70, or are they going to have to go get 70?
No, they don't have to get 70 from somewhere else. The way the UDO reads, whenever certain businesses close down, you can occupy a certain percentage of their space. So they would be able to accommodate some of their parking on site, just not 100% of the parking on site.
So it's kind of a floating number depending on the circumstances of the moment?
Yes.
Any other questions, comments?
Awesome.
Mr. Lawrence?
Where did you put in the condition on this approval on this
Flip to it. Yeah, on item number 2, staff is recommending the inclusion of the condition.
Would that be pointed out?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Okay, if there are no further comments from the, or questions from the council, this is a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak for or against, please come forward. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Sorry, trying to jump in early before Austin did, but I'm the owner of Avi Investments. I'm trying to talk on behalf of Trita Oates. I'm from Raleigh, North Carolina. The space that you saw, if you can see on the map right there, we have close to 210 spaces. We have 3 restaurants and a coffee shop. Majority of, because of pandemic, you see majority of the restaurants are going through a QSR service where it's a quick service restaurant where you get more takeouts than what's actually needed. With that being said, our tenant, Trita Oates, is a small business owner out of South Carolina. Her daughter is based in Raleigh, North Carolina. And she's an event planner in Raleigh, and she said there's a big demand for this space over here for birthday parties. She gets requests on a frequent basis, but nothing to serve over here. Trita's moving up from South Carolina to help her business grow this business over here. What I'm asking is to reconsider the parking request because if you go at any time, I've been there daytime, nighttime, evening, weekends, that parking lot is empty majority of the time. Asking my neighbors with Planet Fitness or Hobby Lobby, and we're trying to get in touch with them, trying to understand how the whole situation worked. This was brought to me over last week and a half. Big tenants like Hobby Lobby, Planet Fitness, Harbor Freight, they have a contract where they are asked to provide a certain amount of parking spots. We're not doing that. We just, we're a small business. We encourage small business, and we want more small businesses to come to our shopping center. Our businesses with Wingstop, the person Kirk is from Raleigh. Noe is a local guy from who owns the Laughing Owl. We have Jack, who's moving from Raleigh, opening up a foot reflexology. Patty's moved down from Pittsburgh. Trita's moving from South Carolina. I've got Amy, who does the coffee shop, and I've got Little Caesars. That's a big franchise over there. So I'm requesting if you guys can reconsider not putting the stipulation of the parking. I know the UDO does say 75. I don't see my parking being used ever to that full extent. We have 210 spaces that can accommodate a lot of people in that area.
I have a question.
Sure.
I'm not as concerned with the parking as I am with the employees and supervision you have. I don't know if you were here when we were talking about the situation that happened with the young lady that was killed.
Yes. Yes.
And you're talking about people from South Carolina, Raleigh, and all that, which I'm understanding they're coming here or whatever. But I saw you on the previous slide, I think 5 employees. Is there going to be someone there as a representative at all events that you're hosting, and how's it going to work as far as how you run your business? That's my question.
So I'm the property owner from the tenant who is going to be there. From my conversations with her, is she is going to be present during the events that are going to be handled.
Now let me ask you: is she going to be able to secure that facility? I mean, I'm just thinking outside the box and being proactive, as we said.
Absolutely.
I want to make sure, because as you see, we have a limited space for people to use in this area. So being that one possibly maybe be getting shut down, one is going to open, hopefully your business. But I just want to make sure that we have everything in place to prevent something of this magnitude that just occurred. So I just want to be,
I completely understand.
Proactive. So I just want to ensure, because the proposal that was done by the gentleman we spoke of earlier, he proposed all this grandiose idea of security and this and that. So I just want to be sure with us moving forward that, we're conscious of what's going on, and I just want to make sure that before we approve that we know what we're dealing with as far as security and things of that nature, not just parking, but other issues that go along with this investment.
Absolutely. As we purchased this property in 2018, this was when the Kmart existed at that time.
Right.
We had a vision that the property wasn't being used properly. The parking was completely blocked off. You could not get onto our property from that center. You had to go around to Spence. We made a decision to open it up at our expense. The previous owners did not do any development. They were an ownership group out of New York. We decided to take it into our own hands and build it completely out to make it more accessible for folks to come in here. One of the things that there are certain businesses that are calling our attention, and we have said no to them over and over and over again because we understand the kind of crowd they attract. This is a family-based center. Dana, who is with Fantastic Sam's, Kirk, who is with Wingstop, they are great partners with us. They keep eyes over there. We work with Wayne Realty, with Bob Logan and April Womble. They are there on a frequent basis, checking out the property. I am there on a weekly to bi-weekly basis, checking on the property and the condition at different times of the day. As it concerns to what occurred last week, our permit for Trita Oates, this is she runs a daycare, so I am trusting her on the way she runs her operations as a daycare, and her daughter as she does her operation in Raleigh as an event planner, to carry on the same principles of running a business here. Again, the permit is also without an ABC license as well. So we're trying to keep it as simple as possible, attract the right kind of crowd, make it a family related environment. My wife's a commercial broker in Raleigh, and she's trying to get people to come look at Goldsboro from a different perspective, just being an hour's drive. I think this is a community that people are sleeping on.
Thank you, sir.
Well, I know that we're trying to be extremely cautious, and I don't know if this is appropriate question, but I'm going to ask it anyway, maybe leaning kind of toward what Councilman Pollack has said, but the lady that's going to be renting out, in her contract, will she have the number of persons that are, will it be limited? Since you can only have 70 spaces. So in your contract where you talk about the limits per individuals, per event, will you have that in your contract and, security or how you're going to do that, as well as medical?
Sure, I can ask that, I can put it in the contract. If you look at the space, the way she had designed the space, you're asking 70 spaces to be filled out for a small event space that can hold between 30 to 50 people at the most, with tables and everything set in there.
Right.
And the UDO is the way the UDO reads, but if you look at the way she has designed the space, I don't see more than 25, 30, if not 50 people show up. And if I'm doing a basic math, I'm seeing between 15 to 20 cars at the most show up. And I can get it into the contract where it says it has to be less than 75 cars based on the UDO. And I think she will be more than happy to sign that, to say this is less than 75 cars.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
I won't keep you long.
Not a problem.
So you were saying originally that there's about 210 spaces,
210
right?
spaces.
So, just so I'm clear, so what we're saying is we're asking Avi.
That's my son's name.
Okay, nice. We're asking Avi to say this new business owner, along with the other businesses in that area, to share parking.
Yeah, we're asking for him to have a contract agreement with an adjacent property to provide for parking for this new proposed use that's going there, because the existing spots cannot accommodate a use of that volume. Typically, a place of entertainment like that would sit on a parcel by itself as a standalone use, or it would be kind of where Dunn's is there, it'd be the primary attractor to that center, where in this case, a lot of this parking is already compromised. I do agree with what he says. You ride by that parking lot, it's not ever full, but we're bound to operate within the UDO as far as what it requires based off the numbers. The shared parking is a way to make this work for him, but it has to be provided on that adjacent parcel.
I'm sure you understood that, but thank you for
I completely understand.
Thank you for breaking that down for me again. So I'm asking you, if that's a matter of it being accepted or denied, is that something that you can do to get that?
We have already reached out to the representatives of the adjacent shopping centers. Both are REITs, they're national REITs. I don't think they care about my little time and seeing why should they share space with me. Seeing that even though we have space available on our parking, they don't want to be held and get into a contract saying, hey, you need to get parking from us even though you have parking. I don't know what the legal language, how it'll spell out. I could put something in ChatGPT and spit something out real quick, but I don't think they want to hear that, hey, you have parking and you still want my parking. It's kind of the sense that I'm going with is we are never full. I mean, even on busy days that I see, less than a third of that parking lot is filled up. I can get, as Ms. Jones said, I can get into a contract with Ms. Oates and say, hey, you will not use more than 30 vehicles or whatever the number that we feel is comfortable over here for an event. Wingstop, Little Caesars are takeout businesses. Coffee shops is a takeout business. Haircuts are 15 minutes at the tops. So fantastic. And there's not a lot of parking being used at our space right now.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Since no one else came up to be sworn in, I assume this is all that we have to come speak. Austin, do you want to say anything else?
No, sir, just if you have any further questions at this time.
Anyone else have a question of Austin? If not, then we'll go through the motion here of addressing this matter. There are 4 motions here that I'll read, and we'll go starting here. Is there a motion that the use will not materially endanger the public health or safety?
So moved. Second.
This motion is made and second. Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Next one is there a motion that the use will not substantially injure the beneficial use of adjoining or abutting property?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is made and second. All in favor, signify by raising your hand.
Mayor Hand,
Sorry.
is there a motion to include with that condition?
Number 2 is where the condition about the parking existed, that's what we talked about a bit ago. So does that motion include that as well, or no?
I'm sorry.
Did the motion include the second part of number 2, where the recommendation is for the shared parking agreement, or did it not include that?
I just want to be clear, if you don't include that condition, staff cannot approve it because we can't verify that enough parking is provided for the use.
Let's include it, let's include it.
How do you want it phrased?
Okay. As it reads in red.
Well, nothing, I don't have anything in red here on my page.
So on your worksheet.
On the agenda packet.
Well.
So, all right. So if we don't include that, then it by definition has to be a no under the UDO, right?
Yes.
Right.
All right. So let's walk down the hypothetical that that's not the goal of. We're then asking him to go and enter and seek out a contractual relationship with someone. I don't represent him or any of his adjacent landowners, but having been an attorney this morning, if I were approached on that, I would say it's got to be mutual. You're going to have my overflow. I'm going to have your overflow. I don't see the math ever being anything than a zero-sum game. I'll just be transparent. I won't vote to allow him to lease to this tenant.
Yeah, I do too.
I don't, whatever that looks like, but I don't, realistically, I don't see it ever being other than a mutual, you have my overflow, I have your overflow, because otherwise they're going to tell him, okay, yeah, but it'll be $1,000 a year per spot, which is going to make it financially irrelevant, and he's not going to be able to do it. So there's got to be some, if we have to continue this to a date certain in order to be able to reach whatever the arrangement is, then let's do it. But I practically speaking, I don't see how that's going to happen.
Okay, first of all, let me go back to the issue that Mr. Lawrence made. I have no language in my.
Here you go.
Okay, that's not in mine.
That was, it's on there.
Okay. So, let me read the question that I put before you, the motion. Here. There was no evidence presented with the application that indicates the use will injure the beneficial use of adjoining or abutting property. Staff is recommending the inclusion of the condition that a shared parking agreement must be achieved per section 6.1.6 of the Goldsboro UDO between RV Investments LLC and one of the adjacent properties. Is that what you're referring to? And you want that in the motion?
That condition needs to be included for this use to work.
Okay.
Okay, let's include it.
All right, so I'll try to phrase it, having.
Mayor Ham, I'm sorry if I may, I'm going to inject, Mayor Ham, I move that we continue this to the next meeting would be the first meeting in May, right? To allow the parties an opportunity to see if such an agreement can even be reached.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Motion made and second to continue it to the first of, I think it's May 3rd, next meeting.
Okay, sir?
Yes.
When you were speaking earlier, did you say that you had spoken with them, or?
We have reached out to the representatives of both
He's the
shopping
owner,
centers to
so
the left
he's the
and the
owner.
right. And we haven't heard back from them. We've gone to the property management route, we've gone to the leasing agents, we've tried to go to whatever LLC listed in there to get a hold of them. We don't have contact information on who, it's a we. Sorry. The owners on the left where Planet Fitness and Hobby Lobby is, it's a REIT, so we don't have a specific person that we can go and get a hold of that will sign off on shared parking spaces. As Mr. Gaylor was saying, nobody will say use all of my parking and I say use all of my parking lot. It just will not work that way. From a legal perspective, they are more than welcome to share my parking lot if they're ever full. I have no issues with them using that. But I cannot get that from a nationally traded REIT to agree to that with me. But we can, I'm trying my best to get a hold of them.
And Councilwoman Jones and Mayor Ham, I do not want to take the city into the role of negotiator and mediator and middleman on this. Quite the opposite. But what I'm foreseeing is a situation here where that we vote tonight to include this, he's not able to get a hold of them, and they're not able to issue the permit. That is in effect the exact same outcome as if we just didn't issue the opportunity in any way. So so the purpose of my motion, full transparency, is to give a little bit more time to see if they can come up with something, whatever that looks like.
And if I may say something, I've got 2 more spaces in there, 2 more units that are total of 3,600 square feet. And I have no idea who my next tenant will be. And I think I'm going to come into the same issue again over here, saying I don't have enough parking. So I just want you guys to just reconsider that. We have plenty of parking. You guys can, I'm going to drive by right after this thing before I head back to Raleigh. So I'm going to check my property again, make sure Little Caesars is functioning, Wingstop is functioning, everyone else is closed right now. So.
Okay, we have a motion made and second to continue to 1 May. Is there any further discussion?
I do. Mr. Austin, since he hasn't been able to contact anybody in reference to this parking situation, is there any way we could serve, possibly your office department could serve as a liaison of contact so we can have all the parties need to be here because he's not able to get them? Is there any way?
Yes, sir. I'll be happy to reach out to him if you have some contact information. I'll be happy to give him a call.
Because I like all parties to be present.
I really
kind of
appreciate it. And again, if it
negotiate
helps
with
to
that.
have, I know the UDO says 75, if I can get from my tenant to say no more than 30 or 40 parking spots will not be occupied. Anything that can help. I'm doing it on her behalf. It's graduation season, birthday season, everything's happening right now. She wants to get in. I'm here making a plea for her.
If she occupies one of the units instead of 2 of the units, that cuts the parking in half too, so that may be
it is a wide open space right now. That's the unit, that's the way she can get the number of tables in that space.
I understand. Yes, I can reach out to them and do that, yes. So whatever the council directs or asks for the next hearing.
Okay, well, I'll second your motion
Does the UDO currently allow for an accommodation if, for example, one unit right now, he does have parking capacity for us to be able to approve it without that? If he's able to present planning department, don't answer this now, I'm just putting out a hypothetical, I'm not putting you on the spot. If he's able to present to planning a contract that says will not exceed the parking capacity of one of the spaces, does that render the conversation a little bit differently? So, anyway, that's for y'all, because I don't know the rules like you and Kenny do.
I see, and I know we have a motion here, but I asked the council to comment. I'm going to make a comment. I think it's highly unusual, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, is to put a condition there to require a merchant to say, I will not have more than 60 cars present. Are they going to go out and count the cars? Or are they going to have a patron come in with a license plate, say I parked in, or are they going to mark their parking spaces? How are you going to manage a situation like that? I asked the council. I don't know of any other business in Goldsboro that, unless it's a single freestanding business that has parking spaces that we say you will have X number of parking spaces, and then we try to manage that. But in a contiguous building with more than one business there, with a parking place of 100+ parking, how is a single merchant going to control and manage to comply with that?
Do you, with that being said, do you suggest some modification to the UDO? Should we discuss that one?
I don't have a suggestion, unfortunately. I'm just making a statement of fact that it's.
I think you're making a very fine point with that one. I mean, it goes down to any business, not just my shopping center. I mean, like I said, my wife's a commercial broker in Raleigh. This is the first time she's going through this challenge right now. We've owned shopping centers in Fayetteville, in Leland, North Carolina, in Greensboro, and never come with anything across like this, where we have parking and not able to lease out a space to a tenant.
And that's why I made the recommendation also to have all players on deck, so that we can have an amicable,
absolutely,
conversation, and also be documented that once we all have all the other partners that are close around to publicly say, hey, we're in favor, we'll work with each other. If it's not just for documentation purpose alone, I want the other tenants on the other surrounding buildings to be here, and we have documented saying that they're working,
Yeah.
But he says he's not able to contact, and that's why.
No.
So if your motion is to continue, I would just request to continue to the second meeting in May, just given the time he's not been able to get up with me, to give me a little bit of time to try and get in touch with his adjacent property.
That sounds good.
I appreciate it.
But how long does that keep his tenant out of there? Out an extra 2 weeks. Is there anything we can investigate and come back with at the first meeting if possible? If we can't figure it out, we'll let council know that we have to continue until the second.
May have to continue it again, so.
So I recommend you continue to May 1st, and then if we don't have a good answer for you, we might have to continue to the next meeting, but at least we bring it back as soon as we can.
Was the motion?
Mine was to May
Mr.
1st.
Councilman, that it be moved to the next council meeting, which will be May 1st?
Yes, sir.
And that was seconded. I'm
Randy
sorry.
seconded.
Okay, but you're saying that you think it should be moved to the second?
Just in the based off what I've heard tonight of how they've been unable to get up with them, I just, in the interest of time, but we can continue it to the first. I can try and get up with them, and If not, you can just continue it to another date certain.
Mr. Gaylor, do you want to stand by your May 1st meeting, or you want to move it?
If maybe the stars align, I'd like to leave it at May 1st, sir.
Okay.
And if necessary, then we'll make another motion.
Okay, all right. Is there any more discussion? So we have a motion to continue it to the 1st of May meeting. The second, all in favor, signify by raising your hand. Okay. All right, sir. Thank you. We want to support you, but we need to do it properly.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, I believe that closes the public hearings. We will now move back to the consent agenda. And Simon, you want to?
Yes, sir. Consent agenda items J through V, with the exception of R, are forwarded for council consideration.
Took R out.
Yes, sir.
And so move to adopt.
Second.
Motion made and second. Madam Deputy Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Mayor Ham,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Polak,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jones,
Yes.
Councilman
Yes.
Broadway, Councilwoman Matthews,
Yes.
Councilman Gaylor,
Yes.
Councilman Batts.
Yes.
Okay, the motion's carried. Thank you. We have no items requiring individual action. City Manager's report.
Yes, sir. A couple of things. When it comes to the gun violence, my sincere condolences to the family and friends of those that were killed and injured during this recent gun violence on the 12th. But I would also say there was a 59-year-old killed 3 days later with multiple gunshot wounds that we should remember as well. His name was Aubrey Redding. It's tragic for all involved, obviously. I'd like to thank the community for coming out with their vigil in March. That's what it takes. Community policing involves the community, not just the police. And last, I'd say we've got several openings in the police department, some of Goldsboro's finest in the police department. We need some of the finest in Goldsboro to be part of that police department. So consider that. Thank you for your service, sir. A couple other items I want to talk on very briefly here. We have a system development fee that went out for public review for the next 45 days. We also have the annual action plan, which deals with a lot of HUD, home, and CDBG funding. We need the public to comment on that. That's out for 30 days. You can find those items on our homepage under important announcements. And then we're going to put something out there for May 6th. We'll have our spring cleanup. So if people would like to sign up to be a part of that, it would be much appreciated. That's all I have, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. We have no ceremonial documents. I'll ask for any comments by council. I'll start with Councilman Batts.
Yeah, thank you. It was something I said when I first was appointed to city council is that I think anybody who normally over a period of time is not a negative person. The family that young lady who was murdered, she went to Brockton Middle School when she was in the 5th grade. I remember her at the Boys and Girls Club. And when it comes dealing with kids, my heart just goes out to their family. I'm like Councilman Polak. It's just amazing me. You have that many people in a place and nobody want to talk. That really disturbs me. Second, my Pastor Ellie is here, and what the city manager just stated. Aubrey Redding Jr. was a member of our church at St. James, and my heart goes out to that family. Third thing, something happened to me this week in my neighborhood. We almost heard the police chief talking about locking your car doors. I didn't call. My car was broken into. Everything was taken. After I got back from vacation, my nephew was here. He locked the car door, so I didn't even call the police. But amazingly, a young man came up yesterday to my house, had my driving license. He said, your materials, if you walk down on Central Heights Road, your materials problems down there. And I walked down, I drove down there to Central Heights Road. and I collect everything that was stolen from me, taken from my car. Found everything back, but I learned a lesson for the citizen, not only District 6, all the citizens of Goldsboro. Make sure you lock your car doors. Make sure you lock your car doors. Thank you.
Councilman Gaylor?
Thank you, Mayor. The fact that we had to be reminded that there was a second death since April 12th tells you what you need to know. To Mr. Jones and Councilman Pollock, who pulled together that vigil. There were others, I know, but I know you and Jomo personally. Y'all did an amazing job of pulling the community together and holding that family up. I will just simply beg those that were there to say something, because we do have an amazing police force in Goldsboro, but their hands are tied when they literally cannot get information from the people who watched it happen. And I don't have an answer for that. I'm 4 blocks from where it happened, and I don't have an answer for that. I grew up corner of Walnut, Virginia. I don't have an answer for that. I mean, but it's where we are. And we had an amazing gathering this evening of civic leaders and church leaders. And maybe the answer is with y'all. Maybe the information doesn't come directly to the police, but it comes through y'all. Build some trust, whatever it is. Because whether it's theft of a car or taking someone's life, those things are not the same. But the common denominator is, if you don't say something, then the person gets to do it again. So that's all.
Councilwoman Matthews?
No comment.
Mayor Pro Tem.
So I just want to say again, I want to thank everyone that came out tonight. I want this to be something that is not just a one-time thing. I think, as I spoke with Mr. Chris, we spoke Assistant Manager of Piggly Wiggly, we need to be in the house to continue the conversation, not just when something negative happens, but uplift this community. I love the feeling of seeing the walls occupied and maximum occupancy in this structure, but not just when a negative thing happens. I want it to be something I spoke with, and I appreciate your comments, Councilman Gaylor. Mr. Jones organized this thing, and initially he wanted me to speak. I said, this is not about me. This is not about any of us. It's about the community. And unfortunately, the breakdown I see, and one of the things that we could do to change this narrative, is for us to work collectively as a community, not to separate ourselves with any intentional agenda. We want to unite, but everyone wants to be recognized. But this is a situation where I think we can use this as a template or a blueprint to move forward and redirect this into something positive out of a bad situation. As I spoke with Mr. Jones today, I said within the next 2 weeks, we need to have something in the community, whether it be in the form of a march or a venue that we can use as a city to show that we are embracing our youth and not wait for another fatality or casualty, as I've spoken of earlier. Organization skills are great in the midst of tragedy. Balloon release dates, as I said earlier, are organized so effectively. T-shirts are made. But let's do something positive and proactive before the next situation occurs. I speak peace in this community. I speak unity in this community. And last but not least, I just want to thank everybody who came out tonight. Thank you.
Councilman Broadway?
I'll be very brief. I'd like to thank everyone that was here tonight. It's good to hear everybody and to see the place full of people. And I understand, and I think the whole nation is frustrated with the gun violence, the senseless slaughter of our children, our teachers. You don't know. Nobody knows anymore. And we can't accept that. and we've got to stop it. So we've got, as everyone has said, we've got to join together as a community and don't accept this gun violence. And if we see something, say something, and take our chances. That's all I have, sir.
Councilwoman Jones.
Yes, I just want to echo community engagement and proactive. The operative word is action, putting action. And we've already had someone to step up to the plate. I do like the idea of using our monies to help our youth. I think that was great. And we already have someone that has stepped up to the plate. And there will be a proposal for a day camp and a summer camp to help feed. We need funding and staff materials. And that's where our money needs to go, into our youth and our children and keeping them alive. So, Pastor Elliott, get going.
Okay, I want to join my fellow council members in thanking the family members, the friends, relatives, and just interested individuals showing up here tonight to bring to our attention the force behind this interest in trying to change the situation. I think that we all understand that this is something that 7 people cannot change here. It's going to take individual effort. Certain members of the audience tonight came forward and said, I have an idea, or you should do this or do that. And I said last week, and I said it again tonight, I'm willing to, and not only willing, I want to make myself available and our staff. But I also want to invite council members to sit down. If someone comes here, I want to reach out to my fellow council members, say, hey, I've got a meeting with such and such person that wants to come in and speak. Do you want to join us? And I hope you'll be available from time to time to do that. Because I'm sure there's good ideas out there. Councilwoman Matthews talked tonight about a curfew. And certainly curfews can be implemented, but we can't arbitrarily just even implement a curfew. Well, I guess we could technically, but we got to have police support and someone to enforce that. And we talked about, or it was suggested, as Councilwoman Jones just mentioned, funding, providing funds to assist in that effort. Council, we're going through our budget preparations now, the staff is, and that those recommendations are coming to us in the very near future. So if we're talking about looking at some nonprofit funding that we would normally provide to nonprofit organizations and redirecting those, we need to be thinking about it very quickly. And so we can change our focus of where some of these funds are going to go. To do that, we're going to have probably some special meetings, or at least have some a little committee within our organization here put together some suggestions and then bring it to the council. So I am not trying to delay any action. I'm just saying there's some things that we need to give a little bit of thought, but not delay it another month or 2 months or 3 months, that we need to move quickly on it. As Councilwoman Matthews said a while ago, she talked about moving quickly. So I encourage my fellow council members here to think about it. Let's have some communication coming both ways, and we can act on this thing fairly quickly in the next 7 to 10 days. And I'm sure that we all are willing to come in and sit down in a non-formal meeting, maintaining that restrictions though. And if so, we'll have a formal meeting. But we don't need to wait until the next meeting in May to come up with a plan. We can do that as we go forward. I appreciate the interest in the council members. I would think nothing less of you, quite frankly, to try to get something done here to respond to the not the criticism that was here, that was given tonight, but the desire, the plea for us to do something to assist in this community, changing the history that we've encountered in the last year or two with the unnecessary deaths that have occurred from guns. So anyway, I sort of said something. I will ask the council if you have any further comment you want to make about what I just said about meetings or whatever, or entertaining suggestions. If you have any comments you want to make before we adjourn, I'll open it back up for that.
I have a question. Being that we plan on meeting before our next meeting, do we need to set a date so the public knows is it going to be public or how's it going to work?
Well, what I was talking about, there are people that want to that have said I have an idea.
Right.
So what we ought to say is, okay, we've heard you say that you have ideas and you want to make recommendations. Well, let's set a date and time to listen to those ideas. It's not to have a meeting of like a formal council meeting, but this is for purpose of a public invitation to come to us. So if there's a certain requirements there that we have to establish time-wise beforehand and get that information out. So if you want to have that, then we need to talk about it here tonight.
Real quick, Fayetteville, North Carolina had a program where they received a bucket of money. And what they did was they specifically wanted to use that money to help crime prevention in their area. So what they did was they put a petition across to the city, residents, organizations, individuals who had crime prevention programs. And they came and did pitches. And then the city decided, or the city or the police department, I can't remember, but once I pull the article, I'll send it to everyone. Then they decided who they were going to fund. Because even with some of the organizations coming forth, I'm just afraid that if money is going to be the stopping factor, so how else are we going to be willing to support? So maybe if we had a meeting of the minds first to get structured to see what that would look like. I welcome anybody to do anything at this point. I think anything would be beneficial because right now nothing's happening. So, I'm open to anything that could possibly.
So you're proposing that we have a sort of a working session meeting to talk about a plan to move forward?
Yeah.
That would not involve.
What can we do? It's like a what can we do? If someone comes to before us, but they need X, Y, Z, what can we do? Where are our lines drawn, or do we have lines?
What are our resources? What are our limitations?
Right. And then I would like the city to do. I would like us to figure out what we are going to do as a council. What are we going to do?
Do you want to propose a date and let us discuss that here?
You could discuss it offline and come back with an idea, maybe hear from your constituents. We don't have to announce tonight. You can announce it another time.
That's a good idea.
So we'll poll our districts and poll.
We just need to give the proper notification if you want to hold a special meeting. We can do that just like we did for a couple other recent meetings.
How about we set a not later than that after polling our district, coming up with ideas, and those ideas are submitted to Laura to consolidate and then send them to us as a council, and then we determine a meeting time.
So let's beat the street in the phones all week. And maybe then we
So
can reach
how
out
about
to
a week from tonight, or a week from today, that your input is submitted to Laura, and then she consolidates it and puts it in a single document, sends it to us, and we come up with a date to get together. Is that I
Let's try it.
throw that out for a suggestion.
Sure, yep, sure.
Is that doable, Laura? Okay.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Well, we owe it to the people of this community to do what we can within our resources and our limitations, both legally and physically. So let's end this discussion tonight on that note. And don't wait around till Monday afternoon to start thinking about this. Let's get it in. I would also remind you, by the way, speaking of responses, you all sent an email from Sherry Archibald to provide, there was a survey to provide input on the MPO information, so I encourage you to take a look at that. I think she wanted it back by the 19th, which is Wednesday. So
She said today.
was it today?
She gave an extension, I believe, until Wednesday.
It was today, and she gave us a 2-day extension.
Yes, appreciate it if you can get that done.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.